Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Fear the Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I wanted to do a episode 8 review and talk about this episode. I will say this episode is definitely better than the previous one. There is some issues that I have though. There are some issues with the plot that I do have that I want to talk about, but some pretty big reveals in this episode, some stuff that I'm actually really happy that they got to, because there's been some mystery here as to a few of these things here that obviously have just sort of been pretty big issues over the last however many years, and they actually resolved quite a bit of it, even though I have some issues with the overall reveal and plot and how people dealt with certain things. But we still got, a conclusion to this here, and I think it was actually a really decent time to do that, especially considering the fact that, we're going into the last couple of episodes here. They can focus on some other stuff and end, the story in just a different way here. But anyways, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Fear the Walking Dead content like this. I apologize that I didn't really post a lot of videos in the last couple of days. It was more just that I was just kind of feeling down, and I do feel a lot better now. I kind of felt better like a day ago, and I could have did a video yesterday, but I need to clean the house really bad, and I need to kind of get things back on track. And I was like, you know what, the new episode comes out tomorrow, so I'll do one there. And it's just, again, I feel like every couple of months, I'll get a moment where I just kind of feel down for a week, right? Like last time this happened was in August. Before that, I think it was in May or something like that. And this week it just kind of hit me randomly this week, and it's just really just random stuff. But anyways, I'm doing really good now. I'm feeling really amazing, and I want to talk about this episode here. So this episode begins with it doesn't really begin with the search for Alicia, but Madison in general is very much on the lookout for Alicia. They're doing other things, but she's sort of keeping her eye out for Alicia. And she starts to notice these zombies with these missing arms, which plays a role into this episode. And it's a very I have some issues with this because not necessarily with what Troy is doing, that's fine, but I feel like this could have been a really small detail, and I guess I'll talk about it now. Obviously, the whole thing of Troy cutting off the arms is more just to torment Madison, because Madison's going to keep thinking, is this Alicia kind of thing, right? To me, it could have just been left at that, as a small little detail of something that he's doing to torment her, but they had to kind of make it into a whole story here, so that at the end, when Madison was kind of feeling bad for Troy because he was looking for, I'm guessing, his kid, she would all of a sudden notice him killing walkers or whatever, and be like, you're the one doing this, and then go and fight him afterwards. The whole build up just for that moment when they were already there a couple of minutes before that, that is the stuff that I find very, very frustrating with the overall storytelling here. And there's a lot of it in this episode here. I will say the Luciana reunion was actually really, really well done. It felt really nice, and it was specifically between Luciana and Daniel, where it really felt so genuine. Both are just really incredible on the show, really, really incredible acting, and you really felt the emotion there. You really felt like these characters really, cared for one another, and it was really nice to see. It was awesome to have Luciana come back into the story. And just all of that, Luciana, in the meantime, has been sort of making gas for Padre. There's this gas station here that is sort of an outpost set up for people, and they can kind of, I guess, help themselves to stuff. And she really tries to help people. And basically, as she was doing that, she set up a bunch of outposts everywhere, and she has a bunch of stations everywhere kind of thing. And there's gas going everywhere, and she helps out a lot of people. And honestly, really incredible. And I know it sounds unbelievable for her to have done, but you got to remember, 7 years has passed by. A lot of time has passed by, right? So it's one of those things where, it makes sense that she could have done that in that time, right? There's just so much there. And that's the issue I have with this Padre arc. And that's why I have an issue with the fact that the showrunners were saying that they knew that season 8 was going to be the last season, was because what, you're giving us the last part of the story? You know what I mean? You could have got to this a lot sooner in season 7. That's why I don't really believe that, because if you knew that season 8 would be the last season, a lot of what we're seeing right now shouldn't be rushed then, but so much of the story is rushed. The big reveal in this episode, though, is that Charlie is still alive. That was the big reveal here in this episode. I thought she was gone. I thought they just kind of wrote off the character. I was honestly really surprised when I saw her. I was just like, whoa, what? And right away she confesses to killing Nick. I also was not expecting that. A lot of that, I totally forgot that was just an argument that we'd always sort of had, with Charlie and Madison, just Alicia, and the whole thing. What would Madison do if she found out, just what Charlie did? And immediately it happens, and it happens so fast. And her reaction, Madison's reaction, her initial reaction is what I've always wanted. I've always wanted her to be that angry about it because it always just really upset me. Like, and it has nothing to do with the character. And I understand the actor who played Nick, like Frank Delane, wanted to leave the show. I get that. But the decision to kill off Nick in that way, and nothing to do with the character Charlie, nothing to do with that. And I understand some of the stuff that they were discussing in the episode. Like she was so young, this and that. Like I get that, but it's just a writing decision, you know. That's the issue I have with it, is like the writing decision to actually kill off Nick in that way is, I just find so disrespectful, and it just really has messed up the show ever since. And that happened in the very beginning of season 4, and that's when the showrunners took over, and that's kind of been the issue with Fear ever since. It's been things like that, right? And I mean, it's still a thing even to this day. So the big scene here was just insane, and Madison's breakdown, you know, of like, you know, if I just didn't let Charlie in, if I would have hit Troy harder, this and that. And, you know, I honestly, I really felt for Madison in that scene, because it was just like, yeah, you know, if you just would have done things a little differently, like you can't really be too upset with yourself over it. I mean, the thing about it, though, that I will say is that Madison, or the actress, never wanted to leave Fear the Walking Dead. Like, I don't think she ever wanted to leave. It was more of a writing decision to write her off the show. And in the season, like season 4, where you're writing Nick off already, it made no sense to write off Madison. So I really feel like, I don't know. It's just, to me, I love this. It's so hilarious because there were so many issues that we had with Fear the Walking Dead back in season 4, when all this was originally happening, and we're kind of seeing, you know, some of it play out right now. Like Madison came back and we're seeing some of these things happen, but it's like, these were the issues that we had back then. And so right now they're like fixing them, but they're not really fixing them. It's more just that they're like trying to like explain it away kind of thing and just go somewhere different with it. I don't know. But basically, you know, the whole thing here, the big, I guess, moment of the episode is like, first of all, Charlie's confession here leads Madison to tell her that, well, I need you to go and kill Troy then. And if you do that, basically things could be fine, or maybe that's a step in the right direction to where you can sort of make this up to me kind of thing, right? And the arguments, you know, between Madison and Charlie and the whole thing here are very, very interesting. And I think that's where I kind of, like, I understand Charlie was very young when she killed Nick, so I get that. I was very angry about that and upset about that when that happened, but I do understand that. I'm more upset about the fact that this had to be a writing decision in general, because that should have been, or that shouldn't have happened. Like, Nick should have died a totally different way, but they made this a whole thing, and this had to be like really, that was the whole big reveal of all of this here. I just think that it just absolutely makes no sense. Like, personally, I'm just so disappointed in the whole thing, and just the plot conveniences are something that I find very, very frustrating. Like, Madison found Nick's ashes after she sent Charlie away, and then all of a sudden she's just like, you know what, I forgive Charlie. Charlie should come back here because she's actually a decent person. I understand, you know, what she really represented or what she wanted for Nick or whatever. So I understand. So now I want her to come back. And then but now she's trapped. And so it's just like, of course, like what? No one was gonna mention to Madison that, oh, we have Nick's ashes. Like, that is something that I would feel like is very, very valuable information to say when you first confess to Madison that you killed Nick. Like, you know what I mean? So like, just keeping certain information away so that the story would progress in certain ways, and then revealing it. It's just like, it's so convenient for when these moments happen that it's like, it's a little frustrating, because then all of a sudden Madison wants to go and save Charlie now after wanting her dead. And then it's like, she goes there, but then it's also like, there's this weird thing where I think Charlie wanted to do this the entire time. Like, because that's the issue that I have with this. Like, obviously Charlie had a big sacrifice in this episode, and the sort of reveal that it seemed like it was that, you know, Madison and Troy, they had no knowledge of what was happening here. Like, they had no idea as to why that tank went off. They really didn't understand that at all. Like, they were wondering why that truck blew up. Like, you know, none of them knew. And I think it kind of seemed, or they were hinting at the fact that Charlie set up a timer or did something like that because she wanted to get caught. And so there was this whole plan here. And Daniel heard that. And then after what happened with Charlie, Daniel's mad at Madison about it, because he's like, you sent her there, this and that. But like, Charlie, like, I'm just, the whole thing, honestly, I have such a huge issue with the way the showrunners, I guess, really tell stories here on Fear the Walking Dead. It's been a thing for a very long time. It's just, you can see the writing, you can see literally the puzzle pieces being put together, and you could just see it. It's so easy to write what they're writing. Like, I don't know, that's just my opinion, but that's just kind of how I view it. And this episode served to kind of, you know, fix a lot of the issues in the past, and I guess it did do that, because now the whole Charlie and Madison storyline, and, you know, the fact that Charlie killed Nick that's all done now. Like, that's all wrapped up and done on the show. So we can't really, I guess we can look back and kind of talk about it and be upset about the fact that it actually happened. But the whole thing has been told, that whole story played out, and I am not the biggest fan of it. Like, it is what it is. I will say, like, the show with the characters anyways right now, it's a little bit more exciting to watch. It's a little more entertaining to watch because I love Troy, I love Daniel, Luciana, Strand, Madison. The list goes on and on. I love all those characters. So it's so cool to see these characters just like be together and sort of wrap up everything here, because it does feel like we are actually going to a conclusion. So I'm excited about that because it does, it's entertaining to watch. As much as I have issues with the way the plot here is sort of being unraveled and how these moments are happening. And it's just so like, wow, as if this is happening. Like, it's conveniently happening right now when she said to go and do this kind of thing. It is still more entertaining to watch just to see where the story is going. And at this point with Fear the Walking Dead, there's no fixing it. The show's ending. So to me, I had to mention some of these things because obviously these are issues that I had with the episode as my review of the episode, but I still think the episode overall was entertaining to watch. I still had fun watching it, and Charlie's now gone off the show. I thought she was actually already gone. So, definitely the character, a very, very tragic story and the whole thing, even going back to when she was first introduced and when she killed Nick and all of that, just the whole story, is just overall very, very sad. And Daniel being upset with Madison. I mean, I will say, like, Daniel being upset with her, I don't really think makes a lot of sense, but I also like the idea in general that he would be, because it almost makes a lot of sense just going back to season 1. Like, every time Madison's around, it just seems like there's all these problems kind of thing, or at least to Daniel, right? Like, that's how he views it. And, the actor who plays Daniel, obviously so amazing. When he was, getting really emotional in that scene, I just really felt it. It really felt like he was just so frustrated. He was so done with Madison. So I really liked a lot of that. That was really cool. Madison at the end goes on her own. And, I guess besides that, the Madison versus Troy stuff, like, to me, it's very, I like the fact that Troy's there. There is still some stuff that I just find very off. Like, he is just randomly showed up, and it's like his whole thing is, I just want a safe place for me to stay. It was kind of revealed here that he might have a child. And so it's like, or it seems like he does. And so that's why he wants a safe place to stay. But there's this whole thing with maybe Madison may have, or he thinks Madison killed his mom or something like that. So maybe that's why there's sort of a revenge thing here. But like, again, there's just a lot here that makes it really unbelievable as to why Troy is all of a sudden back in the picture. Like, it's a lot to believe. It's a lot that you just kind of have to accept. And a lot of this story is just kind of laughable at this point. It's just more entertaining, and I'm excited to see where certain character stories are going to end, because I feel like the main plot points are still good, and I think that's why I'm still watching, is because the main plot points are still actually really good. Like, if this character dies or this character decides to go over here, it's still good and entertaining enough that I'm like, okay, that's pretty satisfying for that character's ending. There's a lot of the little in-between stuff with the story that I've been complaining about in this review, but I think that stuff it makes it watchable. And so, this episode, I think, was a very good episode overall, in terms of advancing some of the story and just, resolving some stuff. I still think that the story overall has really big issues and has always had big issues going back to, like season 4, I guess, basically, right? Like, it's always been a thing. Besides season 6, that was actually a really good season. But even then, there were still some, issues that I had. I think in the second half, I was complaining about some stuff, but like, yeah, it is what it is. At this point, we have 4 more episodes left. Next week's episode looks really, really good. And that's what I mean. Like, that's kind of what I mean to say about a lot of this stuff is, like, next week's episode, it looks like Dwight goes to Sanctuary, right? So that's going to be really cool to see Dwight and Sherry go back to the Sanctuary. Now, as to why they go there, that's the stuff that's going to really make, not a lot of sense and could feel a little bit too convenient in this and that, and why the story might feel of lesser quality, but it's still entertaining to have Dwight go back to the Sanctuary. So that's kind of what it was with this episode. It was like very entertaining and really interesting to watch because, a lot of the Madison and Charlie drama was getting like resolved and a bunch of stuff was happening. But it's just the little stuff in between is what you just kind of almost have to ignore just to kind of watch this at this point. But anyways, I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post your thoughts down below. What did you think of this episode? Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.